Alright, so I'm just doing the first low power test here. I got the Altrax controller all unhooked. As you can see, it's quite tight in there. Here's the new motor controller. The only thing I have to do, of course, is finish it off with a case, but that's to come later, or very soon anyway. So I'm just doing some preliminary testing here, making sure everything is checking out alright. I got my power supply here set to 20 volts, basically maxed out. And motor controller here, and our 12 volt power is coming from this little power adapter. So I'll just show you. And of course the motor is currently unhooked from the chain. I just have some very scabby little thin wires going over the motor here. Right now the controller is programmed for 10 amps max. So I'll show you what she can do. So we got some movement there. Motor's turning, and she's pulling about an amp at 20 volts there. And of course the issue is if I turn the throttle up anymore, then what happens is the motor starts to accelerate, and the controller tries to maintain the motor current because it's a torque control, right? And it ends up putting the power supply into current limit, and then the voltage collapses and it just basically shorts out the power supply. So this thing doesn't have enough power to do much with this motor, but I'll just show you it running here. So there's the sprocket turning. There's not much power behind this. I can kind of slow it down, but yeah. So I think we're all good here. Next thing I'm gonna try is full pack voltage and see what she does. I'm just gonna be hooking it up to the battery pack. And then after that, it's just, I have to install it in the bike and then take it for a run around the block or whatever. I definitely didn't design this bike to be super easy to work on. As you can see, the Altrax controller just barely fits in here. My controller is actually just a tad longer, so I may actually have to trim those copper bars a little bit to get it to fit, but other than that, she should fit. It'll definitely be a challenge either way to mount it in here, and so everything's all mounted and bolted nicely. Anyway, I just thought I'd show you that. That's the first low power run. No issues. I'll show you what happens here when I turn up the throttle. So we're doing about an amp at 20 volts there. If I turn up the throttle a little bit, the motor speeds up until it runs out of juice, because once again the controller is a torque controller, so it kind of just runs away on it there, and the power supply can't keep up. So yeah, that's exactly what I expected to happen, and yeah, everything's all good. I'm gonna test it out on full pack voltage next. Okay, so I now have it hooked up to full battery pack voltage. It's actually hooked up to the charge port on the back there. I have an additional inline fuse here of 3.5 amps. So if anything goes terribly wrong, it'll just blow that fuse. I have some additional scabby wire here going to the motor, and we're just going to see what she can do. Alright. Alright, so I'm just pre-charging the motor controller again here. I just have this big 5K resistor, so it takes forever, but it's good enough. And yeah, so this is the second run here I'm about to do. So I did have an issue on the first run. I found out that on power up of the 12 volt rail here, there's a glitch with the motor controller, and it blew the inline fuse. So it looks like just as the motor controller is powering up, there's some sort of glitch that shorts out the, or basically connects the motor directly to the battery for, I mean, it's probably like tens of milliseconds. But I think what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna see if I can solve that. But I've been thinking about the circuitry here I have on here. I'm not sure if I can actually solve that. So worst case, what I'll have to do every time I drive away with the motorcycle is I'll just have to make sure that this, like the 12 volt the controller is actually powered up before I start pre-charging or anything, and that glitch won't even be present. So yeah, I'll have to think about a way to get rid of that potentially, but I think at the moment I can't think of a way to get rid of it. So it's just going to be that's just going to be the way it is, I guess. All right, so I'm going to put a new fuse in here and try again. I'm going to have to put the camera down for a minute. Okay, so inline fuse is back in. Motor controller is all powered up. We're at 80 volts. Let's give her a run here. Not enough current there. That's maxed out and we're not moving. Alright, so I've been attempting to test the motor controller here at 80 volts and ran into a problem. And I think it actually has to do with the current limit. So what's happening is that I turn the throttle up and the motor just kind of goes, it doesn't really get to turning. It moves just a little bit and it can't really do any more. I think what's happening, now that we're at the higher voltage, I think it's hitting my 10 amp current limit like really quick. And my motor controller reacts so quickly to that overcurrent that it just throttles it back almost immediately. So the motor never gets to really turn. So I may have to go back and reprogram this for 20 amps or something just to get the motor turning a little bit here. At one point I did get it turning enough to actually get it going, but then I just throttled back immediately because I was just, I don't know, a little bit antsy, I guess, because this is the first run here. So I could have just left it and it probably would have probably would have come up to speed and everything, but I'll try it again for a couple more minutes here, and then I think I'll probably end up giving up and just going and upping the current limit a little bit in the software. But yeah, it's good to know that the current limit reacts that quickly that the motor can't even really get turning. So really good. I think we're gonna give it another run here. Alright, so testing with full battery pack voltage here. We got 80 volts there. I'm just testing this out, and for some reason it's got some weird oscillatory thing happening here. I'm not sure why, but still gonna need a bit of work, I think. But other than that, everything's working. I'm not sure why it's doing that. It's kind of beyond me at this point. But I'm going to have to review the code a little bit and see what's happening in there. Alright, so finally figured out what the problem was. There's a section of my code that calculates the motor current set point, and there's obviously something wrong with it. I don't know what yet exactly. But I just put a fixed value in there, and everything's running good now, so I'll show you what happens. So when I turn the throttle up a little bit, it just sets the current set point to a fixed value, and then it goes from there. So if I turn this up, and there we go. Sounds like she's running full speed. Sounds pretty good. Yeah, and then as soon as that goes back into my current set point code, it kind of oscillates again, so there's something dicky there. Alright, so I think we're all good, and I just need to, I guess, work on my software a little bit more to, you know, correct that issue. But I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna, I mean, everything's working. No idea if it'll work at 650 amps or not. We'll have to find out. But I'll go ahead and I'll finish up the motor controller. I have cut out some acrylic walls and top for it, so it's all enclosed and everything. So I'll go ahead and do that. Of course, I'll leave the top just loose for now so I can have access to work on the software. And I'll go ahead and mount it in the bike, I guess. It's really just minor software stuff from here, I think. And yeah, everything's working good. I just gotta correct a few minor issues here. So here's roughly what it'll look like when it's all said and done. It's a very tight fit, as you'd expect. It's essentially the same size as the Altrax controller, which I'll put side by side in a moment. It looks like I'm actually gonna have to dice off these, or slice off these copper bars a little bit. They're a bit long, so I'll be trimming those and bolting this in place, and we'll be good to go. So here's my motor controller next to the Altrax controller. As you can see, very similar size. My controller is just a tad longer. Almost nothing in that, but just a tiny bit. Width-wise, we're actually identical width-wise. Mine is going to be a bit challenged to mount because I don't have a big flange like the Altrax does. I did that intentionally because I'm trying to squeeze everything out of this as I could. And as you can see, it's just slightly taller. So overall, very similar. It'll fit in the bike. It'll definitely be a tight fit, but that was the goal. So goal accomplished. Here's my controller. Basically all set to go. With everything put on there except for the lid. On the front panel here, there's just a screw terminal block that my 12-volt power and my potentiometer will hook up to. Here's my battery plus, my motor minus, and my battery minus bars. So I'm basically ready to put this in here. It's definitely going to be a bit tricky with the way my bars are because the Altrax controller had the bars vertical, which was actually pretty nice because you could adjust. I guess you can get your cables to go directly down or directly up, but mine, it's basically got to come off to the side or out the front. So it's a bit trickier, but I'll make it happen. Here's the controller location, so I just have to bolt my controller to these mounting points here and then hook up my cables. I have a feeling I'll have to make some new cables because these are probably, especially this one here, is probably not the right length, so I'll have to do some rejigging, but I'll get everything to work in the end. So I'll check back in once she's in there. Okay, she's in the bike, all set to go, all wired up. It was a bit of a pain in the ass. It was very tight. I actually didn't have to remake any cables, which I was quite surprised. I just had to reroute a couple to where they needed to go, and had to bend a couple of the ring terminals at 90-degree angles like that, or I guess 45 or so degree angles to get everything to work. So yeah, I've wired up the 12-volt power to the same switch that the fans are on. I figured that just made sense because then, flick it on, the controller comes on, the fans come on, and then you drive away. So yeah, this is the first go here. I definitely don't have enough hands to film at the same time here, so I'm gonna have to give this a test run first, and then I'll probably film it later. We're still completely unhooked from the chain, so no danger of this going anywhere. So yeah, I'll give this a go and let you know what happens. Alright, so everything's running. We're good to go here, and seems like everything's running really well. The ramp rate is quite slow because the current is still turned down very low. I think it's like 10 amps or something. I'm gonna have to up that a lot. So there we go. She responds well. It's only pulling about 2 amps from the battery pack, so not much, but yeah, you get the idea. And I did some quick measurements on the voltage input for the throttle. I'm definitely gonna have to adjust my deadband a little bit, but that's okay because I've configurable deadband in the software, so not a problem. Yeah, I just need to turn that current limit way up. Responds pretty quickly, it's good. Alright, so we're gonna, do some more tests here and see where she goes. Alright, so I've upped the current limit to 100 amps. We got some pretty serious action going on now, just check out this. So yeah, I have experienced this before. So there's some kind of software bug I'm not sure what it is yet. So I'm gonna have to fix that. It seems like when it sits at low throttle for a long time, it has some issues. So I'm gonna have to figure that out. I think I might know what's causing it. It has something to do with the throttle deadband, I think. But yeah, I'll have to figure that out. Actually, you know what? I think I know what it is now. I think it's when the throttle is below my throttle minimum set point. I think some weird math is going on there and screwing things up. So anyway, I'm just going to reset it here and try again. All right. Yeah, so I definitely got some software bugs I gotta fix here, guys. Anyway, I'll fix them and get back to it. Alright, I've solved the software issue. It was, I was doing in the throttle calculation portion of the code, one of the variables was wrapping around. That's what the issue was. So, yeah, my mistake, but corrected now, so I can show you what she'll do. Oh, sorry, I don't even have the display plugged in, but I'll show you what the motor does here. So I'm going to put it at about constant quarter throttle or so, and you'll be able to see what that does. So this is quarter throttle. So as you can see, it just slowly ramps up to full speed. At quarter throttle right now is 25 amps because I have the controller set for 100 amps. So I'll show you what full throttle does now. Full throttle. So ramps up very quickly. So I think we're good here. I just need to, I still need to bolt down the controller. It's actually not, I mean it's fast and sort of, but the nuts need to be tightened. So I'm going to do that next. And then it's time for a test ride. So yeah, I'm terrified. But I'm excited too. I mean, it's working, it's not blowing up. So, and it's definitely pulling some pretty serious amps already. I had the display hooked up and everything, and I mean, when you just gun the throttle or whatnot, it pulls about 30 amps from the battery pack. So I think it is basically 50 or 60 amps on the motor side already. So yeah, not bad. We'll see how it goes. Alright, so here's the bike. I have the controller set to 100 amps current limit. I just drove it to this spot here from my house. I'm literally like 200 feet out front of my house. I'm not going far because you know, if anything goes wrong, I don't want to be walking too far. So yeah, I've got it set for 100 amps. I'm scared shitless, so let's give this a go. The controller is basically right here between my nuts, by the way. So if something goes wrong, it won't exactly be pleasant. So let's see what happens. Something's happening. I'm moving. Alright. Oh shit, that's full throttle. So, yeah, 100 amps is not all that exciting. This is full throttle. But let's see what she can do here. We're pulling 10 amps from the battery pack, by the way. More like 1 now. Barely registering on the current meter. Says we're going so slow. So that's probably, is that 100 amps in the motor? It seems quite small. Oh, there we go. Okay, we're picking up now. Whoa, whoa. Alright, it's still full throttle. Getting about 15 amps in the battery. 20 amps. Nothing. Alright. Alright, she seems solid. Alright guys, I know it's dark, so this video is probably not the best, but I did some screwing around here on the block at 100 amps. It seemed really tame, so I'm not too worried. The temperature derating part of my software is not working correctly right now, so I have that commented out. So I'll figure that out later, but I've ramped it up to 650. Just said fuck it, we're just going for the gold here. So yeah, we're gonna give it a go, and I'm just gonna take it for a quick jaunt, so temperature derating shouldn't be an issue anyway. I should be able to take it for a couple seconds, no problem. So yeah, let's give it a go. No idea what's gonna happen here. That's the fans. Pre-charge. Alright. There's definitely more power. There's a lot more power. There's a lot more power on this thing now. Alright. Oh. I think I might have blown it there, guys. I had a shit ton of power there. Try it again. I'll see if I'm still live here. Oh, I'm still live. Okay, it must have been a software bug, guys. That's good. So I definitely got some software bugs in this thing, but she's still working. Holy fuck, this thing's got a lot of power. That was like a quarter throttle. Maybe. All right. Nice and easy, nice and easy. I'm barely giving it any throttle right now, and we're just cruising. Oh, torque control is beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, this thing's got a... Holy shit, guys. I'm freaking terrified of this thing now. Oh, yeah. There's definitely a software issue of some sort. Oh, you know what? It's hitting my hardware overcurrent is what it's doing. Oh, guys. It's, yeah. Holy shit. I'm gonna verify this. Okay, if my hardware overcurrent tripped, there'll be a red light on here. Yeah, I can see it. So we got hardware overcurrent is tripping, and holy shit, guys. Holy shit. Okay. All right, so I'm hitting hardware overcurrent on this thing. I'm hitting hardware overcurrent, and it's stopping right there. All right. I'm pretty happy I have that hardware current limit in there now. So I guess the ramp is a bit too fast, or I got to dial it back a little bit, or I might have to recalculate my hardware overcurrent.